Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
I'm Dave Peterson from
John Lemieux.
Chairman of this committee.
Joe Perry.
Joe,
How are you?
Joe
Mr. Peterson, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hello, Hawaii, nice to meet you.
Just to give you a brief overview of what we're doing here, as I said, we're being recorded.
Okay.
Not for live television, but it will be shown later once all three, we're interviewing three firms. And once all three interviews are done, it'll be put on television so public can get a gander of what we're seeing and what we're doing. They can criticize us for not asking the right questions, I'm sure.
Sure.
But basically, we started out with, this has been a long process for us. We started many years ago. I was on the original building committee for the police stations there now, back in the late 80s. At some point in the process, around 1999 or whatever, we proposed a $4 million addition for the police and the fire station. Didn't pass muster with the town. We tried again later on. It was, what, 6 or 7 million a few years later. Didn't pass muster. This time, to our shock, we did the feasibility study and come up with close to 12 million, and the public said, okay. But I think the need is, if you've looked at the facilities, particularly the fire facility, it's obvious that it's in dire shape, the police. And
It's a beautiful house.
so, yeah. It's a historic building, to say the least, and never even designed as a fire station, so. But so we've submitted, put out a request for our OPMs, and we've come up with, we had 8 or 9. Eight returns, and we whittled down to 3, and obviously you gentlemen are sitting here, so you're one of the 3.
Great.
What we're going from here is we had one interview before you're here now. The third party's coming in on Monday, and at that point, after they're all completed, we're gonna make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen.
Sure.
Probably the following Monday. And
Yeah, we won't do it Monday night because we're having our fall town
yeah,
meeting.
we got a fall town
Okay.
meeting Monday
Yep.
night, so we'll wait till the final. Plus, that way it gives the public, if they wanna see the videos, a chance to look at it. The other selectmen that aren't here, obviously, they can take a look at it too, come up with a design or so, or an OPM. So with that said, we're looking to expedite the process. As everybody says, time is money, so what we'd like to do is give you a chance to kind of introduce
I
yourself.
know you guys are doing something, but I want to invite you all to my
Okay.
open house.
Thank you, Bobby. We'd like to, gets a little free publicity now, right? He runs a local antique shop. But anyway, introduce yourselves, whatever kind of introduction you do, and we'll follow up with questions on other things we have to ask you.
That's great.
And is this all set for you?
This is all set, yeah, you have, so just so what you have in front of you, in the folder, you have a copy of what's up on the screen, if you want to
Okay.
take notes or whatever. Inside the folder, you also have a copy of a sample monthly report on the right side, and on the left side, a little info sheet, but behind that is also a budget, sample budget sheet, as well as a set of constructability comments, just a sample. So, so with that, again, thank you for having us come in today. We're thrilled to be able to have an opportunity to tell you a little bit about our firm. As I said, my name is John Lemieux. I've got over 24 years' experience in municipal construction. I am a Massachusetts registered civil engineer. I'm also the principal in charge of OPM work for Vertex. I also sit on a couple of building committees. Actually, just got off of 5 years at the Duxbury School Building Committee, so I can appreciate the time and process it takes to get a project like this up and moving. I'm also currently the project executive for the Randolph Police and Fire projects, Nantucket, as well as Situate Public Safety, which is in its final few months right now. Kevin?
My name is Kevin Heffernan. How are you? I'm with the company now going on 18 years. I'm originally from the New York office. I have over 25 years' experience in construction. I also am the chairman of my town's high school building committee as we begin our journey to build a brand new high school. I'm also a town meeting member as well, so I understand how the politics in town works. We're trying to get a building such as this built, getting it approved and everything else. So I am also currently the project manager for the Littleton Fire Station, as well as the Randolph, which we're about to wrap up within the next couple of weeks, as well as Westford. And I've also done the Chelmsford Fire Station as well. So I have pretty extensive experience in fire station construction and OPM.
A little bit about the company. The company was started in '95 as a both construction services and environmental services firm. All of our folks are credentialed in one way or another. We've got all various types of engineers. We've got estimators. We've got licensed construction supervisors, licensed site professionals from the environmental side. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. All of our folks are OSHA trained at a minimum. Everyone has the 10-hour as it's required by law to be on a construction site. Some of our other folks have more. A few things I think that set us apart are the fact that our firm became an ESOP. It'll be 3 years in December. We're an entirely employee-owned company. So people sitting in front of you and anyone that you deal with on our site, they're part owner of the firm. And so they directly are impacted by the job that they do in the field. We also have significant experience with troubled construction projects. Before we got into OPM work, we did a lot of work with bonding companies, and we still do. When a public project goes south, and a town, let's say you were building a fire station and the contractor needed to be removed from the project, you have a bond. You call that bond to come in, whether it's Travelers or Liberty Mutual, somebody. Those folks call in consultants like us to come and figure out what's going on. So what does that do? You don't want any problems on your project. Well, we have a history of a database of what made some of these projects go south, and we like using that information when we're building a project from the ground floor up, whether it was a management issue or, a specification or a job issue, we take those experiences and try to build them in as best we can.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the depth of the firm, we have a lot of folks in our office that do OPM work. So as you can see from the graphic here, all of these folks do OPM work the majority of the time. So while we may get called to do different assignments with a firm, excuse me, on a very small basis, we have a good bench. If Kevin, God forbid, I want to give him a vacation day, there's somebody who can come and fill his shoes.
Thanks.
What's a vacation?
There you go.
From a clerk standpoint, if the clerk, it's a year-long project, clerk gets some vacation time. We have people who can step in and switch out. A little bit about the breadth of the company. As I said, we aren't just OPMs at Vertex, so it gives us a little bit of a bench that others don't have. We have people that are air quality specialists, environmental specialists, structural, mechanical. Not to say that you're hiring us for that, but if we find something in the field, we're a phone call and a photo on the iPhone away from saying, hey, is this something we should be worried about? It gives us just some extra people that we can speak to, an extra database, let's say, to be able to refer to. Now I'm going to take you through some of our public safety experience. Feel free to stop if you have any questions. As I mentioned, Situate is a project we're working on right now with Doran Whittier. It's about 77% complete. It's a police headquarters and an auxiliary fire station. It was almost a 30,000 square foot facility, a $15 million contract.
Excuse me, are you the OPM for this? Or?
Yes, we
Yes.
are. Yes, correct. That project has a joint dispatch, which was new for the town of Situate. It's gone very well, and again, we're looking forward to moving them in at the end of February. Randolph, Kevin?
Randolph is a unique job because it's actually two projects in one. There's a separate police station in addition on to the existing police headquarters. So as the building is fully occupied, we're putting on in addition to it, redoing new detectives' rooms, new chief, new administrative staff, new holding cells. And then the fire station is a brand new station next to an existing station number 2. So that'll be a 4-bay firehouse able to accommodate all of their newest vehicles that they just purchased. So the idea was to build for future coming trucks because none of them are getting any smaller. So we'll have a brand new firehouse in North Randolph as well as a brand new addition onto the existing police station, which just actually increases their capabilities of running professional systems.
Are they located in a...
Not as close
No.
as yours are going to be. They're
No.
probably they're about
okay.
a mile
That's-
Yes.
mile and a half from each other,
Okay.
but very similar.
Right down 28. Yeah.
Very similar in that the police station needs to stay up and running because they didn't have swing space.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the fire, like, is being built right next to the old fire. So they'll literally, when they're done, move out, move in, and get rid of the other building.
Right.
Barry Public Safety, interesting project. Originally started as what would have been a police, fire, and EMS facility. Barry got a $3 million grant. They had no tolerance for any borrowing and no budget, so $3 million was the number. At the end of the day, it became a police station, police headquarters, which they desperately needed because they're in their town hall, and a small EMS garage. Fire could be added on later. That's with Jakunski Humes, and that picture was taken just a couple of weeks ago, so that one's moving along well as well. Can we talk a little about Littleton?
Littleton Fire Department is almost the same situation as you. They're going to town meeting next week to have town meeting approve the funds for the project. We already have the contractor and all those costs already built into the project. We got those 2 weeks ago. So with this station it's an existing firehouse, the original one, and we're gonna build an addition onto the back. So what we've done is we've taken everything, because it's also an on-call as well as full-time station. So we've taken them and relocated them in the town. So they'll still be operational full-time, and then we're gonna take this station, renovate the full interior of it, and then build the addition onto the back. And again, they're also a department that also purchased brand-new trucks recently. So this station has been made to accommodate those trucks. So it'll be right next door to abutters, so we've had to deal with them on a regular basis, which is not a problem, because it's a town-wide project, so we get everybody involved. So Littleton, it should be starting December 1st, will be the kickoff of that project as well.
With the OPM?
With the OPM, yes.
And the architect, that one's Corel, who did your,
The Corel
who
Group,
did your
yep.
study here.
And that's just fire.
That's
That one's
just fire, yes.
That's correct.
Yep.
That's correct.
Just a quick question, looking at
Yes.
the picture there, I'm retired from the state police, that looks like the state police barracks. Was that something that was built back in the 30s?
It's an existing, very old, but it's not a historically registered
Right,
building.
right, but it's.
So, yeah,
it
way
looks-
back in the
this looks
day,
just like one of the barracks. from-
serves many, many different
Yeah,
purposes
yeah,
throughout the town.
okay.
So the next one is the Chelmsford Fire Station. This is a project we finished a couple of years ago with the town of Chelmsford. So on this project here, this job went to town meeting twice before it was approved. So on the third time with the charm, they got it approved for the amount of money that they had. So we knew we could never go back to town meeting for more money, so we had to make it work. So what we did was we took, the original locations didn't work out, so we actually put it into the parking lot of the existing town hall. We left the town hall operational and built a fire station just to the side of it. So in that firehouse, some of the problems an issue that we ran into that firehouse was the fact that the design of the building was such that they didn't take into account a brand-new ladder truck that the chief on his own forgot to tell us that he had purchased. So when the truck was coming, we had to realize we were going from a 12-foot high door, now we have to increase it to 14-foot high. So we were able to do that on the fly during design phase of the project, and also bring in the local utility company to raise the wires that were in front of the building, also up to meet the size of the truck. It's a 100-foot tower ladder, massive structure. But the uniqueness of this project is the fact that it ties in to the existing town hall. So as that town hall was never shut down, we built a bridge that went into the town hall. Inside, they have a shared space of a workout room, but the chief and everybody else is located in the main fire headquarters.
Just a few others. Westford Fire Station, just down the road, just off of 495. This will be located on Boston Road, right off the highway exit. They have an existing building that you see pictured above. It's a dual project where they're relocating the joint dispatch, which is currently in the police station, and they're trading out a training room. So Westford's training room in the fire station is now going to become the joint dispatch, and they're going to build a new training room in the new fire station down the road. $13 million project. It's currently at about $8.4 million. It's about $410 a square foot. The architect for that is Donham and Sweeney, and that one is going to be in bidding in roughly February. Just a few others. Nantucket. Nantucket's one that we're working on. Have been working on for over a year. You think construction costs are high here? You should try building something out there.
I saw this whole price.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's basically a 40% markup on
Right,
anything,
wow.
because every single bolt, screw, sheet of plywood,
Yeah.
30 miles on a barge, and the fact that it's over $10 million requires pre-qualification, which minimizes an already small pool, and the prices just go up. And just, you know, we've also built a couple of police stations in our time as surety consultants. We've had the opportunity to take over some projects and build some projects from scratch. So we have had a general contractor hat on at times. This is a very large police station, $19.7 million. It is the New York City Transit Authority's police station out at Coney Island. If you were to stand under that little beige awning and turn around, you're looking at the place where the hot dog eating contest is. Nathan's every year. And just another one that we completed, 145th Street Station, which was actually a subway as well.
This was a transit authority for the New York City Police Department. Again, this station, the uniqueness about it was the fact that you had to have holding cells inside, but also HVAC. You could not disturb the subway system as it was running. So this is right up on top of the platform, so you'd walk down to the active subway stations. So it was an incredible job. And it was good for me because my family are New York City police officers. So on this project here, you had to be able to build in cells, locations, training room as well, locker rooms, officers' rooms, as well as able to provide sleeping quarters in case there was an emergency. The guys had to sleep overnight. So again, this is deep inside the tunnels of the New York City subway station. So it was a fun job to be a part of.
Now we'll move on to your project in the process. You don't have this slide. I added this one late, but just, you know, bottom line, what's your project? You know, your project right now is estimated at a construction budget of about $353 a square foot for police, and about $420 for fire, based upon the numbers that Steve provided. Just some sampling of what we've seen in the projects that, you know, we've been doing. It's a little bit, you know, these are all dictated by market conditions, geography, just the current climate that's out there. You know, Marshfield and Chelmsford were, you know, within a year of each other, but Marshfield was cheaper. Marshfield was a neighborhood, you know, more of a neighborhood station, built more like a house, whereas Chelmsford, as you saw, was built more like a town hall with a brick facade, obviously more expensive to do. Randolph Police is not a good number to focus on because it was a renovation, you know, so we're blending some significant renovations in with some not so significant renovations of, you know, paint and flooring and ceilings. To shine the place up, but that drags that number down. You know, we're looking more in the, you know, in the Barry and the Westwood areas. So if you were to say, you know, how's our police station number look at 3 and change? Well, we just bid one for that amount, and that, you know, that looks like a pretty solid budget. And Westford right now is focusing right around 410, 415. So I think Corral's numbers are, you know, are reasonable for where you are right now in the process. So as we, you know, get into the process, you know, assume we hire that designer. So we move into the actual design process, and right off the bat, you know, we start off with schematic design. You know, you have a very baseline study that's been done so far, but we need to get into it a little bit more and make sure that that programming that he did is still accurate. You know, and we ask a couple of basic questions. You know, what do you need and what would you like to have? They sound kind of the same, but they have very different budgetary requirements. The needs you got to pay for, the wants are things that you want to track, and maybe you can get some of them. You basically want to identify all the problems that need a solution, and then measure up how those answers align with the money you have to spend. Because right now you're at 11, and if 11 and change is where you're going, then that's the number we've got to work with. And another question that always gets asked late in the game, but you want to ask it early, to be sure you have an answer when it's asked late. Did you build this for the future? Is there room for any future expansion in the process? So, you know, I think one of the biggest and most important rules we have with you is making sure the budget stays solid. You know, right now you've got a 3-line budget or a 2-line budget from Corel. You've got construction costs and soft costs. You know, but what are those and how do those break out? Well, as an example, there are many things that we would want to get on the board right away. Geotech surveys, hazmat surveys, construction testing. Construction testing are the things from, you know, when we take soil samples for compaction, we take concrete testing. None of these numbers are big in and of themselves, but they're all, you know, kind of death by 1,000 cuts. 10,000 here, 15,000 there. We want to make sure they're all accounted for from the very beginning. You know, in that soft cost number, Corel provided furniture, fixture, and equipment. You know, that's, you know, if you pick up the building and shake it, everything that falls out is FF&E, aside from the specialty equipment we'll talk about in a minute. FF&E procurement. Sometimes the architects charge for that service to walk you through that furniture process. Might not be part of their base services. Need to ask that question and account for it if we have it. Specialty equipment, fire station, perfect example, Plymavent system, the vehicle exhaust system. That's another line item. It's usually not part of the base contractor bid, usually purchased by the town. Want to make sure that that is accounted for as well. Small costs, advertising, printing, moving. Sometimes, is the town going to do it with their own forces, or are we going to hire somebody? We need an earmark for that. Temporary facilities costs. Where are the men and women going? Are we sure they can stay in the building? If not, we need to put some money aside for that. Utility back charges is a good one, because when you call your local utilities, you usually won't know until after they do the work if they're going to charge you for it. You call, who's the utility up here for electrical?
Town, we got town.
Oh, town, okay.
They're very good.
Okay, that's great. Well, let's use a different one.
Yeah.
Gas.
Gas is.
Yeah. So you call.
Who it is
Yeah, you
now.
call the gas company and say we're
National Grid.
going to install a new service. Usually, it's after they do the calculation of how much you're going to use before they tell you whether or not they're going to hit you with money. So we want to make sure that we have some funds in our budget from the beginning, 10, 20, 30,000. If we don't use them, great. Better to have them, not use them, and then put them back into the contingency than to get caught short without them. And then communications and commissioning, other items that we want to make sure are in there as well. When we talk about budgeting, we look at the estimating of the job is very important. Obviously, any designer you hire is going to provide a cost estimate as part of the process. We handle those one of two ways based upon what you as the client want. We either do a comparison on our own based upon everything we've seen on comparative jobs, or we put it out to a wholly independent estimator again, so you can actually compare two outside estimates. We would suggest if you wanted to do that choice, we would wait until the construction, early construction document phase, because you're just not far enough along in schematic and design development. You're kind of getting there, but not quite all the way. Design development is next. At that point, we know what our program is. Concepts turn into hard details. Your estimates become more defined. And we also do our first constructability review. We find our constructability review as being a very important in the process. You have a sample behind that cover sheet on the left side of the folder. Basically, we put our hard hats on and we try to find the mistakes. Not the mistakes from a design standpoint. We're not doing a peer review and checking load calculations and whatnot. What we're doing is finding out if the design consultants coordinated their work. So are the ceiling heights all the same between the architectural and mechanical drawings? Those little details that aren't necessarily a big deal unless you're building and they stop the
can be a
project.
very
Oh,
big
yes.
deal.
Right. So a small issue such as a ceiling height that can be clarified becomes a big issue if they stop and say, I can't move until you tell me whether it's 10 feet or 11 feet. So we try to go through those and shake those out. We do constructability reviews after DD and either one or two times in construction documents, depending on our schedule. We also talk about value engineering. We start that, and we'll go to that. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. And we also start having our first discussions regarding alternates. Alternates are a great way, if we're running a little tight on a budget with a hard ceiling, of being able to say, okay, what are some things we could live without, and if we have the money on bid day, we add them back in. The trick with alternates, though, is you have to take them in the order that you prioritize them. So as an example, if you took this room and said, this room is great with carpet, we'll bid it that way, but we would love for it to be a hardwood floor. On bid day, you get a price for the room with the carpet, and then you get a bid alternate to add hardwood to it. So right at bid day, okay, if we take them, we know what order. If we also wanted to put a special tin ceiling in the room as another alternate, great. If it were cheaper than the first alternate, though, you can't skip and go to the ceiling. You have to take them in order. So we work with you through this process
Okay.
to prioritize. Yes,
okay.
you can't menu pick. You can't bid shop. The Attorney General frowns upon that. So you have to basically take them in order. But they can be a very good way to either add or deduct. An alternate can go either way. They're good from a bid strategy standpoint. And in design development is also where we start talking about the specialty procurement. We don't wait until construction to talk to the Plymavent people and talk about procuring. We start when we're about halfway through the design to make sure that we all end up at the same finish line together. A little bit about value engineering. Value engineering gets kind of a bad rap as scope cutting if it's done at the end of the day, oh no, we're running too high to our budget. It's value engineer. All you're doing is taking things out of the building that that you probably otherwise would have wanted. But as we, I talked about Barry having a pretty tight budget. Some simple examples of things that through the process we said, what would work better. We switched some of the brick masonry to fiber cement clapboard and vinyl siding. Again, same energy requirements at the end of the day, or I should say energy insulation factors, but obviously save them some good money there. Site work, going from either granite curb to precast or precast to bituminous. Again, we want to have those conversations with you, and with the understanding that you may be saving on first cost, but you may be giving yourself longer term maintenance issues. Plow hits a piece of granite curb, plow bounces off. Plow hits a piece of asphalt berm, removes the asphalt berm. So there are pluses and minuses of both. So we have those conversations. Concrete walks change to asphalt. Going through the design and seeing removal of superfluous manholes. All those things. Are we saving you as much money as we can along the process? We get to the construction documents. I mean, that's the set that's going to go out to bid. Minimized our contingencies at that point. We do our final constructability reviews, our final talks about value engineering and alternates, and that's also where we pre-qualify in case the project we're going to be over 10 million. In this case, even if you added your projects together, I think you're just under, which is great. So we won't have to deal with that. If you have any questions about pre-qualification, let me know. We can talk about it after. We get to bidding, and that's where we need to make sure that the process is in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 149. That's your filed sub-bid and general contractor bid laws. We participate in the site walks with the design team. We're there throughout. We also assist the designer with reference checks after the bids come in and checking the DCAM file so that we can make sure that we're making the right recommendation to you as the town to say, okay, let's enter into a contract with this firm. Get to construction, and it's really, this is where, we are your eyes and ears. You all have full-time jobs. Your project is our full-time job. We have someone there on a daily basis to record progress, ensure that, the work doesn't impact daily operations, or in the event of a neighbor that's close by, impact their life while, we build this thing for a year. We monitor the schedule and budget. In your packet, you have a budget sheet from Chelmsford, and we really like to show the whole needs versus wants thing. There may be some things that would be great to haves if you could. So we keep track of them on the budget sheet so that as we reach certain milestones in the project, we can say, all right, we've got a little bit extra money. Okay, we can buy that bike rack that maybe we don't necessarily need, and track things along the way. Chelmsford took the approach that after trying to build this thing 3 times, they weren't returning a dime back to the town. They were going to spend every penny they had. And at the end of the day, we got that wish list down to very, very few items. So it really worked out well. If you had asked me 6 months into the job, were we going to get it all in? The answer would have been no. But as things progressed and reality came about, we were able to manage it to the end.
The budget's on the left side of the folder, behind the cover page.
So again, just we're there every day. We are providing you the record. When we're done, we will hand you the project record, either in paper or electronic or both. You tell us, and we'll prepare for that throughout the entirety of the project. And then as we start to wrap up, we're there for punch lists. We're there to make sure that training happens, and we're the interface between the contractor and you to make sure that everyone that needs to be at those meetings is there, so they can learn about their new assets and make sure that everyone knows how to use them, before everybody hands you the keys and runs.
Yeah.
And just a little bit about, how do we run the project? I think, we like to focus on the design coordination early because we do think it mitigates conflicts, which can become claims later. And again, claims, it's not always a claim for money, it's a claim for time, which can become a claim for money. So at the end of the day, we really stand behind if a claim comes up, deal with it. We don't like everybody reserving their rights to the end, and then you have a pile of things that you have to resolve after your brand new building is opened. Because frankly, it's just going to encumber budget dollars that we'd rather have to build things or to return, and not, just spend on frivolous claims. We believe in spending enough time looking where you can't see. That means understanding existing site conditions. So before we put a shovel in the ground, make sure that the site that's suggested here has had test pits dug. If there's going to be demo of an existing facility as part of this contract, make sure that we understand what that entails too. Is there any lurking hazmat or any of those kind of things? Spending a little bit of extra money in the beginning to answer those questions can save you dividends later. Understanding the impact of the occupants, and the townspeople along the way, making sure that we're communicating with everybody, and then constantly promoting that cost analysis and prioritization to make sure that you're getting what you need and maybe getting what you want if we can deal with it. Lastly, Kevin, do you want to talk a little bit about communication?
For us, with the communication, it starts at the beginning of the project. This is a very big project for the town. So there are people who are going to have a vested interest in what's going on. So what we try to do is we try to provide information regarding the project and where we stand, how we're moving forward. We do not at all put out any information unless it's okayed with you guys first. So we can put out as much as you want or as little as you want. But it's important for us because we both sit on committees in our own towns. We want to know what's happening. So providing the right information eliminates the perception that something else is going on. And you want to be as transparent as possible, especially with a project like this. You're combining two areas. Everybody wants to know because the biggest services you have in town are police and fire. And they want to know what's happening with them, what's the status. So we try very hard. We do a monthly newsletter. We can also go on to and assist your town with their website and do updates, just in case it might be a road closure, a lane closure, something going on that people in the town might want to know what's going on, as well as just give you information as to the status of, because everybody wants to know, as we go along in the project, where are we today? Where's my money being spent? And we show them through websites or through our reports and attending meetings.
And also, given the fact that you have active local cable access, Kevin, I think, how many times a month were you? Twice a month?
Twice.
Twice a month in Chelmsford, walked through with local cable so that the folks that had only drive by on the outside were actually seeing what was happening on the inside as well. So it was great, and we got great feedback about that. A little communication can go a long way. Also, when we talk about the the monthly reports, that's for you as the committee. We can give you as much detail or as little and pare that thing down. At the end of the day, people want to see pictures. They want to know how the budget's going. How's it progressing, and are we within our budget? And is it going to open on time? And we can easily help communicate, that information for you. So before I turn it over to you, I think we have lots of specific and comparable experience to doing exactly what you're looking for. We are, I think, a responsive and attentive team, and if you have checked our references, I would hope that that's what you heard, and if you haven't, I would offer you to call them all, because at the end of the day, we don't get DCAM report cards like the contractor and the designer do. All we get is phone calls. So we take it very seriously. We take our staffing and job very seriously. So at the end of the day, when you call on us and they say, how'd they do? We want to be able to hope you can say, they did great. They gave us the people who they said they were going to give us. They were there for the duration of the project. And we love our building. So with that, turn it over to you.
Okay. Obviously, you mentioned the Corral Group. You've worked with the Corral Group before.
Yes.
We did a preliminary schematic design with the Corral Group. They were chosen amongst from a variety of people who put in for it because we needed to get a price town meeting. We needed to go into this project knowing what we were going to be asking for. So we got the 11.5 or whatever that final 11+ million figure is now. One of our questions that's come up is when we pick the OPM and moving forward, what do you find any advantages to just using the Corral Group to do the final design? In this case, it'd be the Corral Group, or would we is it beneficial to go out to bid and do design service, a complete new design service?
Well, the first question is, did you give yourself the option to extend his contract?
As far as I know, we did.
That's the first roadblock. So if the answer to that is yes, I mean, it really becomes a question of, this whole process is, you have to work with us, you have to work with that person for the next 6-7 months
Right.
till you get a design done. Let's say assume 6 months, and then you're going to build it. So it's another year. So this is a 1.5-year relationship. If you've liked working with him and you've liked what he's provided, it's a very, I'll say, personal decision for this side of the table. Littleton took the approach of they had him for the study, but they still wanted to open it up to see how it went. Ultimately, they chose him again. I think they had to go back out. I take that back. I think they had to because they hadn't written that into the feasibility. I mean, look, at the end of the day, there are many very good firms out there that do this kind of work. But if you like what he has provided, you have the option of extending with him because you wrote it into the RFQ. We've enjoyed working with his firm as well. I mean, it really becomes and time is also another thing. If you're going to start the process over, it's a week to write it, 2 weeks to advertise it, another week to review responses when they come back. Shortlist, you're at 4 or 5 weeks. Contract, you're 6 weeks out, as opposed to you choose your OPM and say, all right, let's stick with Corel. You've just saved 6 weeks on the schedule. So,
There's trade-offs.
there's trade-offs.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
In Littleton, it's actually been a pleasure to work with him, because he was already on the ground floor, knew what the client wanted to have, but also understood the importance of the time frame. Like John was just saying, we were backed up. We had to meet town meeting, so we had to have the budget in. So it was a very, very, very busy summer, and he met those deadlines, and he worked very well with everybody.
We started Littleton after Westford, and it's on the street before Westford. Westford had an issue. They changed designers. Different apple. It's an apple and an orange. But the reality is Corel came in, and there's folks in our office when they said, "When are we bidding it?" And we said, "It bid." They said, "What?" And it worked well together because he knew what they wanted. They had gone through that process, so it saved that process and that time, and it got a bid that was
Right on where he
it
was estimated to be.
under budget,
Yep.
under budget by about $1 million on 8, so which was great.
All right, so assume you've seen the stuff that Corel gave us.
Yes, it was part of the
In terms of
RFQ.
two buildings.
Yes,
The idea being that the police station needs to be operational during the entire
correct.
building time. And the idea was that the temporary building that's there would be replaced by a new addition on the left, where they could build the fire station, would be an entirely new facility. Does that seem, in your estimation, reasonable? Is it something does it make a difference in terms of?
It saves you from, look, temporary facility for a police station is a big deal. It's a bigger deal than a fire station. Fire station, you still have to, you're housing people so they can live, and you're housing trucks. Dealing with a temporary station for police is a much different scenario between evidence, detention, add those two things, it's a whole different game. Randolph is a perfect example. Built the addition, moved into the addition, did the work in, there's probably a 4-phase project inside, moving groups of, moving the detectives around, moving the patrolmen around, moving the roll call room. I mean, so because they had to stay open, and there's 60 officers. Yeah, I think it's 60 officers there. So the plan, I think, can be done. There's a lot more details to be shaken out, because you want to make sure that the details are laid out in such a way that they're communicated well to the contractor so that they're not guessing. Guessing results in a padded number that results in possibly a blown budget. So you say, we're going to work in this area, and that's when you work with Corel and say, okay, we're going to build this piece first, you're going to move, you're going to demo, and then it's smartly laid out, and not just from an operational standpoint, but you also have to think about it from a building operation standpoint. Heat, water, all those things need to be live. You can't take down the part of the building that has the boiler in it, because then you'll have no heat. And then maybe if you're building the new part, does the new part include the new heating system? So those are all details that need to be coordinated to make sure that the building can run both functionally and operationally through a phased approach. But it's certainly doable. I mean, it's done with much larger projects on a daily basis. This can be figured out and done for sure.
Communication would be key for all of this to work properly. Bringing the police, fire chief, everybody in right away to find out what they need in order to keep their facility up and running. They're going to have requirements, unlike other people. So we constantly have meetings with the Randolph Police and Randolph Fire Chief. Even though the Randolph Fire Chief is not impacted by this move, the police chief is on a daily basis. So being attentive was a major key. Also in the town of Chelmsford, it was being attentive and communicating to all the department heads when things were going on in that building. It can be done. It just has to be thought out properly and working together in order to bring this all to a completion.
Because our actual intent on the building committee, I don't think I mentioned it to you before, was to have the town administrator, Debbie, 2 selectmen, probably Joe and myself, but it could be different ones, and then the police and fire chief, so that they would be involved.
Be the committee.
They were involved
Absolutely.
with the Corral group. We've changed police chiefs in the meantime, but it's been a good working relationship
Yes.
with the ones we have, and we would hope that the building committee would be comprised of these people. So that as we keep it small and tight, and it's a minimal amount of, oh, wait a minute, do we think we want this or that, or some other.
And
type of
it's
situation.
also important to have the chiefs involved, because from a labor standpoint as well, there are things they can and can't do, to the patrolmen, to the firemen,
Right.
as far as, just requirements of what needs to be available for facilities. So having their input, architects are great, but they might not understand, what it means to
Right.
run, the operation on a daily basis, and that's why that interface is
Plus, from
is
our point
important.
of view, we don't want the chief of police saying, oh, wait a minute, the selectman didn't give us this.
Right. But you also don't want the building officials also
Right,
to
right.
come in the last minute saying, why didn't anybody include me?
Yeah.
Because when you're going for that certificate of occupancy, well, I didn't get that information. I didn't even know about these. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So you want to bring everybody in the beginning. For me, being the PM on the job, it's important to bring everybody together right away. So you can feel everybody out so they know what are the needs of this person, what's going to be the response from Vertex, how we're all going to work together, how many meetings are we going to need to have, how available is you call my phone, it's available 24/7, because I understand that the chief has things going on in his life. He's running the police department. The selectmen have things going on. If a phone call has to happen at nighttime to discuss something that just popped into someone's head, that's what you have to do. It has to be the same understanding. I'm here to work for you, like John said before. Everybody has full-time jobs. This is our full-time job. So this is what we're going to do for you. So if you have to hear about it from somebody else and you didn't hear from us, then we're not doing our job. So
How much of your work is OPM versus other types of, do you do design work? And
We do not do design work. We're OPMs.
Strictly OPM?
Yeah, and the
Our
group,
group is
and the
OPM.
folks that I showed you, I'm probably the only person that touches some of that troubled project work anymore. I didn't show you all the names that are in our office in
Right,
Weymouth.
right,
That
yeah. All
it's
right.
probably another 6 people that
Okay.
work, for the insurance company stuff.
Right, right.
So we're, we have a good bench, and we've been doing this work for a while.
Good. Joe?
Yeah, based on your OPM experience, how close do you find that the architect's final design is close to the initial design or schematic design?
we have found working with them hand in hand, it's come very close.
Very close?
But sometimes there are decisions that have to be made, that changes have to be done in order to bring it back into where you need it to be, back into budget and everything else. But for the most part, almost, I'd say 85% of our time is the schematic design.
It's the program. If your program is a 14,000 square foot fire station, a 14,000 square foot fire station will be built. The question becomes, what are the bells and whistles that are associated with it? That different question. Slightly different answer to the question. I think. you know, if the 14,000 square feet is a 4-bay fire station, the goal is to get you a 4-bay fire station. At the end of the day, you might not have radiant heat in the slab because that's a $200,000 ad, but you don't necessarily need it. It's a great thing to have, and that might be something you deal with through an alternate. But you know, we put a lot of stake in the program, and we support the designer through. Look, if this is the design professional telling you that Raleigh needs a 14,000 square foot fire station to do the program and to be able to grow a little bit into the future, that's what we want to make sure you have at the end. I take a pretty hard line when it comes to, well, it's still too much money. Well, there comes a point where you're cutting bone. You know, you can make some changes. You can change brick to cementitious siding. You can do some of those things, but then there's a certain point where you'll be making choices that you go from a solid surface countertop to Formica. Great, you just saved yourself some money, and in 5 years you'll be cursing when it's delaminating on the front. You know, we want to get you to a point that you feel comfortable that you're not building a Taj Mahal. No town has the money to do that, but it's at least solid, and it's going to last you 40 or 50 years with no issues. Now, radiant heat in the slab, would it be nice to have? Yeah. Can you live without it? Yes, you can. But we would say that some of these other things that get brought up, you don't want to cut bone. You start cutting bone, it's not worth it. So, you know, whatever that program is, we want to make sure that vision gets through, and to the extent possible, we get it built. And if we can't, our job is to not make you wait till bid day to find that out. Like, if we don't think, you know, for whatever reason we can do it for Correll's numbers, we want to tell you that in design development, as soon as we start to get that feeling, does us no good for everyone to get all excited about this, and on bid day you come in $500,000 over, and we can't start.
Right.
We haven't done our job if that's the case. If there needs to be a hard conversation, let's have it 4 months before then, and make the changes necessary.
Please share some examples where you have intervened during the project when you discovered problems involving expenditures or design flaws or delays, problems with subcontractors, and how did you resolve the problems?
You know, we have had a couple of situations with designers where, you know, their response time was impacting the project. Everyone gets along great. The reality is when the construction bids come in, your designer has spent 80% of their funds already. And the lion's share of them are great, but in some cases we see a drop off. When you see that in that handoff, you need to intervene right away if you start to see lagging times for submittals and shop drawings and those kind of things, because you know, submittals and shop drawing approval is tied to materials being ordered. Materials being ordered ties to lead times and when it gets on the job site so that we can actually start building it. So, you know, the architect has usually, let's say, a 14-day turnaround time, so we want to make sure that they're sticking to it. You know, the flip side of that is, you know, if we ask the contractor, tell us the things that are critical, well, everything can't be critical. You know, it needs to be a good relationship of what's realistic so that we can make sure that these things flow through. We always like to keep an eye on long lead time items to make sure that, you know, even though, you know, it's the contractor proposing those, we have that discussion right in the beginning of the first job meeting. Okay, what are the things that are going to take a long time that you think, okay, here are the things that we think are going to take a long time, and we reconcile that right from the beginning so that, you know, that's an intervention on day one, so that let's think about those things, you know, because there's always going to be something that, you know, may take too long. I mean, we had a situation in Randolph last week where the door showed up broken. Nobody's fault, but you know, you got to know where it's at, when it's coming, and have yourself a little bit of buffer time like we did, so that there's enough time for a door to come back out and get in, and we still make the end date, to put this thing up.
That's the same thing I'm looking at his schedule as well. You look at their schedule and making sure that delivery dates are met, expectations. So we usually always ask for a 2 to 3 week look ahead that goes along with their master schedule, because you can plan out the best way you possibly can, but it's when you're able to shorten that duration and give us exact dates. Like John said, we had the issue with the door. Well, how does that going to affect the installation of the epoxy flooring now? And how does that affect this? So there's always a ripple effect to
Always.
everything. So you're trying your hardest. You have an end date. The most important thing is to keep that end date and to get that certificate of occupancy, you get substantial completion. If something along the way, even if it's the most minute thing, you got to keep an eye on it so it doesn't affect later on down the road. And if you're going to switch things up for the contractor, he can switch things up as far as planning goes, but you also have an understanding of who did it affect down the road later on. And so we try very hard to have good open communication with all of the subcontractors, not just the GC, because the subs will also tell you what's going on and everything else. So we hold everybody's feet to the fire. This is the schedule that you gave us. This is exactly what we have documented. And we make sure that the architect puts it in the meeting minutes. So it's all documented that as well, that we've been asking questions about that. And we're not afraid to sit on the same side as you and go after the architect saying, like John said, you have so many days to return these submittals. Where are we? Or I need your engineer out here again. Well, he's only got 2 visits, and I don't want to hear that he only has 2 visits. We need face-to-face communication with these guys because we found out in the past that a lot of things get lost in translation. We put them face-to-face. They have to look at each other and they have to say, this is why I'm doing it. Or
Can't
this
hide
is why
behind
that.
an email trail.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Clerk of the works.
Excuse me?
Clerk of the works.
Yes.
Very big concern of mine. We've got town of Salisbury north of us. It's just, they're almost ready to finish up their police station. They built the library a year or 2 ago, and in both cases, they had issues between the clerk of the works and the contractor.
Okay.
And I guess they had to replace it, and I'm going by newspaper coverage only, so what the actual story was, I don't know, but I'm concerned about, I mean, the clerk of the works is our eyes and ears on a daily basis for that project. We did we replaced 3 bridges back in the Mother's Day floods of 2006, I guess it was.
yeah.
And working with FEMA and MEMA and all those people, we had an excellent clerk of the works who was right on top of things, and the bridges look as good today as it did the day we installed them back in 2007. And so I'm just concerned that with your clerk of the work experience, maybe you can relate a couple of stories of issues that developed with the clerk of the works or with the clerk of works came up with, those kinds of issues, because to me that's a critical part of how this project gets finished in the construction phase in particular.
I will tell you that, before we place anybody on the job, we don't bring a clerk with us today because that's unrealistic, because we don't,
Right.
where schedules are gonna play out. But the reality is as we get close, you'll meet the clerk, you'll have an understanding of what his or her resume is and the projects they've worked on. Prior public safety experience was, will likely be there, because a lot of our folks at this point have done, if not 1, 2, or 3, of these buildings that you've seen. We haven't had to replace a clerk because of any issues or any headbutting with contractors, to this point, which is great. We're not there to be everybody's friend, but the reality is, as cliche as it sounds, it is a team. Okay,
Yeah, no,
and the most important people on that job site, in my opinion, are the clerk and the superintendent for the contractor,
Right.
not the PM for the contractor, not the guy that sits in the office and comes out once a week. It's the super, because it's the super that understands what's going on that job site on a daily basis, and it's our clerk who's the tie between what's going on and you folks in the town. Kevin will be here, but he'll be here a couple times a week once we get into construction. That person will be there all the time. Again, to allay any fears of them, we would have them come in and have them speak with you and answer any questions. I mean, we handle our work in such a way that we keep records the same way, we document the jobs the same way, we all use the same reports, so that if somebody has to sub for someone else, nobody's reinventing the wheel. We keep our electronic files the same way, and job files. So, as well as any issues, we make sure that if there's anything that we think is an issue, even if it's before it's been given a PCO number by the contractor or a proposal request number by the architect, we start an issue folder, take some extra pictures, or make duplicates of what we do, and we just throw info in the file. So if it's something that looks like it might become an issue, or somebody complained that, I don't think I own this, okay, start taking notes, just in case. And then if it does come up, if it does show up eventually, what did it take you? It took you an extra 5 minutes to document what happened out there, but look, you kept record, and you knew that they worked on it for an hour, and threw their hands up and walked away. You get a proposal request for a day later. It's like, wait a minute, you were there for an hour. Well, how do you know? Well, I wrote it down and I took a picture and I saw your guy. These projects are big, but they're not so big that you're not going to be able to keep good tabs on, on what's going on. It's a combined, 20,000 square feet. That's even our biggest projects right now. Our Situate's 29. We've got one person out there, and she's killing it, and there's upwards of 70, 80 tradespeople a day on that job site, and it's going very, very well. So,
Okay, just for me, it's critical, because
Absolutely.
when we did the bridges, between the clerk of the works, the super, and I was out there on almost daily, 3 different bridges on a daily basis, and, the clerk of the works didn't happen to be there, but he was there most 90% of the time. I could talk to the super, and the super would explain what was going on. He'd coordinate that with the clerk of the works. I know the clerk
and we're
coordinated
also
all kinds of information
Sure.
with Debbie on a daily basis. To us, that it's a critical.
And-
I know everything else, money-wise and budget-wise and everything else.
no, but to us it's a
Clerk of the
full-time.
works is-
To us, it is a full-time job. We
Yeah.
have done part-time clerks in cases where we've had some tight budgets, and the towns have asked us to do that. Not our favorite. Not our favorite.
I, for one, don't want to go. We've had some issues with clerks of the works on some other projects in town. And,
Yeah, no, it's full.
To
It's full.
us,
It's
this
full-time.
is, I can't emphasize it enough, from my perspective anyway, that
We
clerk
agree.
of the works is absolutely essential. A good clerk of the works.
Right.
We agree.
I think we're very lucky because, like John said, a lot of the people that we have in our office have fire and police station experience, but more importantly, they have the personality to deal with some people who might not have the best personality on a given day, and they're all very well informed as to what they can say yes to and what they can say no to, but also, by the same time, sometimes you need to hold someone's hand and pull them across the finish line. And we have not had any problem whatsoever. Like I said, I've been here for 18 years. We have never, in the years that we've been doing open, ever removed
Haven't
a
had to
clerk,
change anybody.
because they understand we are only as good as our last job, and as our relationship grows with you, we're a big firm, but yet we're small enough, and we have that personal touch. You can call John, you can call me anytime you want. We're always going to be here. You're going to be able to call the clerk whenever you want. I'm only 20 minutes down the road to get here. This is what we take pride in. And the people who are going to be on this job at the end of the day have got to be able to look you in the face and say, here's the building that we gave you. And we have clerks who have done jobs for the FAA over in Beverly. And we had issues with the FAA working for MassDOT. And they handled it perfectly well. And situations that people get into, it's a daily learning experience, no matter, because no jobs are the same. But you just have to understand, I'm here to do a job for you. I'm not going to, number one, not going to embarrass you, and we're not going to embarrass our company. We're going to work through it. And I think we've been able to do that over the years that we've been doing this. Any situation comes up, we've always been able to work through it, whether it's getting John involved if we have to. If you see a lot of John, I'm not doing my job, then we got problems. So, but I love this type of work. This is what I do all the time. I've been doing this for a very, very long time. And when the day comes that you're going to cut the ribbon and everything else, you're going to see my 2 little kids with me going, take the pride, and this is what we do.
Dad did,
Huh? Yeah, that's it.
The best, Chelmsford, Billerica, arch rivals football. They opened a brand new fire station. Whose kids are on the front page of the Chelmsford paper? Two kids in Billerica sweatshirts.
Yeah, that went over well.
Half of the course.
Oh, yeah.
Debbie, you got anything?
Let's see here. Do you have any experience with energy efficiency design and construction? We're just thinking of, we're not a LEED certified community, green community, but.
Is stretch code community?
No, we're not.
Okay.
But we do follow the 2015 International Energy Code. So we were just thinking of, during the design of the building, putting in some energy efficiency components to
Sure.
it.
Lights.
I would tell you that I would bet that any designer that you choose is likely going to be designing to the stretch code anyway. So
Okay.
20% beyond, the non-stretch code communities. I think it's smart. It's just smart design at this point. I mean, at this point, you're talking LED lights, low flush fixtures. Your HVAC systems, just by virtue of how they're designed now and the required air changes, it's better. No VOCs and the solvents. I mean, you're doing a lot of these things that would be getting you points if you were doing lead anyway. Most communities won't go for a lead just because sometimes there is too much cost
The
to
upfront
get too much
cost
cost to get the plaque.
to get
at
to that
the end of the
level,
day, but
and-
that doesn't mean that your building won't be
Yeah.
energy efficient. From its insulation values. I mean, all you need to do is tell Corel in the beginning, look, we want to design this thing to the stretch code. Even though we don't have it.
Yeah.
Great. The buildings these days are tight and pretty solid when it comes to energy. Now, if you want to do anything like, photovoltaic or anything like that, there's a cost to that. There is a
Yeah.
payback for that too, obviously. But you'd want to have those conversations right away in the beginning to say, look, if you're thinking about it, let's run some numbers on it, because it's hard to retrofit after
Yeah.
the fact. You design the
Yeah.
roof of this building not to support PV, and you decide halfway through, let's do it. Time out, start over, back up. But it's an easy question to ask. Or if you think you want to do it later, it's an easy add to say, look, Corel, beef up the trusses, because we're interested in maybe doing it later, and don't make it such a spider's web in the attic that you can't access from underneath if you needed to later. So there are some simple things you can do if you're thinking about a retrofit later on to make sure. Our biggest thing is we don't want you to do anything that can't really be undone later. If your thought is we want to add on or those kind of things, we want to make sure that we haven't penned you in such a way that save a few short money dollars
Yeah.
and but a long-term impact.
Makes sense, yeah.
Similarly to when we talk about HVAC systems and all of that, one of the single biggest costs we've seen a little crazy lately, HVAC and plumbing. So we want to make sure that what systems are the MAPs coming up with, what are the pluses and minuses. We've seen a big trend towards variable refrigerant flow systems. So really it's an air conditioning system that operates all year long, runs on electricity, but you're not, there's no gas, there's no natural gas. It's all based on this, two-pipe system. 10 years ago, you wouldn't have heard anything about it, but it's become a very efficient way, to save money. So I'm just saying those are the things we want to talk about with, if it's Corel, and more along the lines of, is it, who's their MEP? Is it GGD or one of those firms? You have a good sit down and say, what are our costs? What are our upfront costs? What are our operating costs? Based upon today's dollars. If you're doing a system with gas, okay, right now it's, might be cost effective. But if the price spikes, would we be better off, on electric using our town municipal, as the source? All questions to ask. Soon, right at the beginning. Right, not long after we get started.
Okay.
So,
Debbie, anything else?
Yeah, on the closeout phase, based on your experience, how long does that take after, say, the building's been occupied? Are there things to be done afterwards, things on warranties and things like that?
Closeout starts the day the job begins. Because
Okay.
we realized in the past that if you wait too long, I mean, everybody, when the job is almost finished, the contractors want to pack up and go to the next big job that they have. So we tell them right off the bat in the beginning, all right, we expect these in the manual, we expect it videoed, we expect these discs, and you start going as-built, coordination drawings. Everything starts off in the beginning, and then we keep track of it throughout with the meeting minutes and everything else. How are you coming along with your coordination drawings? How are you coming out with your as-bills? Because at the end of the job, it's usually the HVAC guy, the plumbing guy, that have the hard times. On a couple of projects we have right now, it's the roofing contractor, because they put some work up on the roof that they aren't capable. I wish we would have known this in the beginning, but we found out with enough time to make the change. They weren't able to do CAD drawings. Looking at what the architect wanted for a closeout, he wanted a CAD drawing as built and the roofer just couldn't do it. So we ended up switching it over to the architect to have them do it. And again, we started right away because it is a lot at the end to gather all the manuals and then to get everybody ready for training as well. And what type of materials do you want at the end of the job? Do you want them in volume style books, or do you just want a disc? So we try very quickly to set the standard of what is going to be expected. And that goes along with Greg and his group saying, okay, this is what we expect. And it's done in the documents. We put into docs exactly what you
In
want.
the contract documents.
The
So that-
specs.
Right, so the expectations are set early on, so that, in a perfect world, you get substantial completion and beneficial use. They move in.
Yeah.
We're thrilled if we're done a month to 6 weeks later. We'll see you at the, we'll see you at the walkthrough, the warranty walkthrough in a year. That's a good handoff for us, and it's all set up, making sure you're piecing it out along the way. And how we help make sure that handoff happens well is, if it, training as an example. We're talking to you 4 or 5 weeks before substantial completion. Okay, who's going to attend the training? Let's get the date set up now, so that we're not waiting until after they move in to do it, when you've already got people poking at the thermostat. Let's get it figured out beforehand, so we know who should be there. Asking for these things to be videoed is a no-brainer at this point. Data's on a stick, video's on a stick, and you have that as a resource. If somebody new gets hired, here's a, it's not necessarily that exciting to watch, but you can at least, you've at least got it somewhere, more than just a binder full of cut sheets,
Yeah.
which really don't, someone who doesn't know what they're doing, no, you want to know the how, not necessarily all the why, and those books can sometimes become just paper in a 3-ring binder, unfortunately.
Yep.
And with the fire police station setup, they're unique buildings, so it's not everybody who can just go into a panel going, yeah, that's a good one I wanted.
Yeah.
No. Some people go into these LCP panels and they have no, you shouldn't be going. There are specific people that we will ask in the town to be at these training sessions, because those are the ones you're going to call and pick up the phone saying, hey, Bob, the lights are flickering in the building. Okay, I know what I'm doing. And he'll go and he'll take care of it. Instead of having one of the on-call firefighters, oh, yeah, I know what I'm, and all of a sudden now before you know it, everything's all messed
Yeah,
up. So
yeah.
we try very hard to bring in as many people, that qualified people that you want to participate in the training as well. But I can't stress enough, like John said, videotape every piece of training. And we try to do it all like in a day or two. So you don't take people away from their regular jobs that big. And the training's only gonna last, in some of the systems, maybe 20 minutes. So again, it's something that's very, very important. And you can't stress enough the importance of doing proper closeout in a timely fashion as well. 'Cause you don't want it to drag out.
Nope.
Time is money.
Okay, good. Joe, anything?
I'm fine.
I think we're pretty.
Yeah, I think.
I think we're pretty well set. I think you
Great.
guys did a great job.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you
Thank you.
coming in.
Thanks for having us.
And, like I say, I told you the schedule. We're gonna be one more interview on
Yep.
Monday.
Mhm.
Hopefully, the following Monday, the Board of Selectmen will make the decision.
Great.
And we're
fine.
looking forward to working with you or with the other
Well, we
company.
look forward to working with you as well.
And that really, we're excited that things are finally, after all these years of,
Oh, yeah.
we've been around a long time,
Right. It's
fighting a
great
lot
to
of wars
finally-
on getting these buildings built, and to have the things move forward, we desperately wanted to move forward in a smooth
Yeah.
manner, so you've done a good job of giving us a lot of information, and we're learning as we interview. That's
Absolutely.
the
That's
thing
great.
I'm finding
Yeah.
out is,
Great.
'cause we're all not building people,
Not construction
for sure.
guys, that's okay. That's why you're hiring us.
And yet we're the ones that are gonna point the finger at.
Oh, absolutely.
If things don't work out well. So, no, thank you very much for coming in.
I'm not a teacher, but I'm in charge of building the high school and yell out no matter what.
Appreciate it. Nice meeting
Thank you very
much.
much. Nice meeting you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
That was very nice meeting you, all right?
Okay.
Thank
care.
you so much.
Have a great weekend.
Yep, thank you, you
Thank
too.
you.
You too.
Have a happy Thanksgiving if we don't talk.
Yes.
But I'm sure we'll be talking next week.
You get that? Yeah, thank you.
All right, take care, have a safe ride home now.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much.
We'll let you beat the traffic.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
take care now.
Take care.
All right, that's definitely a learning experience.
That's
for
right.
sure. I'll give up my day job, I go be an OPM guy. So we got one more to do. You
And
wanna
that
have any
will be,
discussion or wait till?
the next meeting will be, on Monday at, 10:45. And the interview is with CMS and is
I'll try to
scheduled,
make it by,
is scheduled for, 11.
yeah.
Yeah, we'll,
I have
Joe has
a,
a-
we'll hold it up for you anyway.
I have a,
Yeah,
He's an appointment, so,
Doctor's
that
appointment.
he couldn't
Okay.
schedule. So I think that would be it for today. We just, will adjourn.
all right, no, thank you very much. I think those are, surprisingly enough, with the subject we're dealing with, the time just goes by very quickly. Because we're getting a lot of information and
Yeah.
a lot of educational stuff that, and I hope people that, if they watch the videos, will get a feeling for what we're trying to do and what's being done. And hopefully, like I say, it'll go for a smooth process, so. Take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.